What is entrepreneurship to you? What does that mean to you?
So I think entrepreneurship for me is the journey to freedom. So it's about realizing that if I want to go and hit these goals and hit these big things and have these big dreams, I need to put in the work to go and do it. If you fall at the first hurdle, you're not really going to get very far, and that's not having a positive attitude. But having a positive attitude is just, no matter what happens, no matter what comes in my way today, no matter what obstacle gets thrown in my face, I'm going to find a way to get around it. I'm going to start pitching, and from the start of the day, I'm running from the start of the day. And you've seen it yourself when you came out with it.
I was sore the day after. It's a concept Gilles talked about as well, with the superpower and the kryptonite.
Yeah.
What's your kryptonite?
That's a good question. I think for me, my kryptonite right now is...
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Extra 5%. I'm Christian Dye, and my guest today is Cal Mackay. Cal is one of the newest and youngest entrepreneurs within the direct sales industry. He's 22 years old, and in the next 6 weeks, moving down to Nottingham to open up his own sales startup company. So it's an incredibly exciting time in his young entrepreneurial career. He's one of the top salespeople within the direct sales industry, but has developed himself from an entry-level sales position into a leadership role where he's now mentoring a large group of people and will soon be running his own company. Cal is also one of the hardest workers I have ever seen with my own two eyes. And in this episode, you can expect to learn how to become a top performing salesperson, how to get the most out of yourself every day, how to consistently maintain a strong work ethic, and much, much more. Cal, welcome.
Thank you, mate. Great introduction.
Thank you very much. Excited to have you on, mate. I really appreciate taking some time to come talk to me today. And I wanted to start off just a bit more into your background. I know vaguely you've got a background in hospitality, but that's about the extent of it. So how did you get started in the direct sales industry?
Yeah, so kind of going back to just working in high school in general, I always was more into my work. I was a grafter at a young age. Started a paper around 12, 13 years old, getting up at 6:30 in the morning to go and do it before school, then going to school afterwards. And then I moved down to Glasgow around about 3 years ago, just up and coming in August. And I initially came down to do further education. I wanted to go and run my own business. I thought university was going to teach me how to do that. I learned very quickly that it was not the case. So I then was working part-time, doing hospitality, as you mentioned, and I was there for about a year part-time while I was at uni. And then I was just thinking I needed to get into a better space for me. I wasn't really enjoying uni. I wasn't really enjoying the work that I was doing. And I found that I was putting in all these hours, really grafting hard, putting in all the work, maybe more than other people around me, and getting £10 an hour for what I was doing. And I didn't feel like I was worth that. So lucky enough, found the industry on Indeed. I'm sure most people do, just scrolling, or from other people maybe back in the day, newspapers and stuff. It was just by chance. I wasn't looking for sales. I wasn't looking for some sort of amazing opportunity, which I was lucky enough to find. It just sort of came to me. There was no pre-plan to get into it, and then ever since I got in, I would never look back now.
It's funny, I feel like a lot of people, that's this kind of story you get, is like, I wasn't really looking for it, you just kind of fell into it.
Yeah.
So you've been within the direct sales industry for...
Just over a year.
Just over a year now, right?
Yep.
Okay. Obviously going pretty well so far.
Yes, it's going good.
Why did you decide to make this the thing, the long-term career? What was it?
I think it solely just comes down to one thing. It's solely dependent on me. If I want the results, it's down to myself. If I feel like I'm not where I want to be, it's all on me. I can't blame anyone else. I can't say I'm not getting the opportunity. The opportunity is there for everyone. It's just those who go and take it and actually go that extra mile to put in that extra bit of work. So it's just the fact that it all came solely back to myself in the end of it. It was not, I didn't get the opportunity from my manager, he didn't promote me, or there wasn't enough positions to go higher up. It is just down to yourself. And being able to put in the effort, put in the graft, and actually see a reward from it, which I felt like I wasn't getting when I was studying, I wasn't getting when I was at previous roles, was the big game changer for me. Just being able to see the actual growth, the development, and obviously the reward. Everyone wants to get paid more money. Everyone wants to progress in a career, and that's just what I was really looking for. And as soon as I seen I could go and take that as far as I wanted, that's kind of why I chose that to be my career. It's endless. I feel like there's not many opportunities out there. And obviously, if you're running entrepreneurship by yourself, where you can go to an endless degree. But the beauty about this industry is it's all together. Say I go down and it's not the best, I don't go off to the greatest start, I've got a team fully underneath me which are going to help me pick myself back up and push me in the right direction again. Whereas if I was doing it by myself and I failed, that's it, it's over. So the big thing that Gio says is togetherness, entrepreneurship, and for me that's just like amazing. Being able to build crews, be able to build teams, be able to learn sales skills with other people around about you is just a really great opportunity for people my age, young entrepreneurs looking for that similar mindset people and group to be around. It really makes the journey easier, and that's why I chose it to just be something I can see myself doing for a long-term career.
I love that phrase. I think it's a Gilles original, is that togetherness, entrepreneurship.
Yeah, definitely, it's a Gilles original.
I love that, and he mentioned it a bit on the last episode. Talk to me a bit more about what that's like, going in every day to an office environment where you have those like-minded people around you who are also on that same journey. What's that like?
Yeah, so I feel like in other jobs, you get people who go in on the Monday morning after the weekend and they're like, oh, I can't be bothered with this. I just want to go home. Can't wait for the weekend again. But that was never really my mindset. I enjoyed working. I enjoyed putting in the hard work. And then being able to be in a group of similar like-minded people who really want to do well. They want to be successful. They're willing to put in the hours. They're willing to put in the work to get there. And being able to surround yourself with that group of people, it makes it easier. It makes it more enjoyable. We obviously have a laugh as well, on our weekends and going on holidays and stuff. And just being able to be in that space where it's really positive, everyone's really driven to go and achieve their goals. It makes this whole journey a lot easier, and it's a lot more funner. It's lonely when you get to somewhere at the top, but if you're around surrounded by beautiful, lovely people, it's a great journey to be on.
It is really hard to quantify for people who have never been around the direct sales industry what that buzz is like when you come in. And I definitely remember it from when I came in for my kind of like first sort of meeting with the CEO of the company that I went to work for, and I was like, there's something about this place. I don't know what, I couldn't put my finger on it. I don't know what it was, but there's just that buzz, that vibe, that kind of intangible secret sauce or whatever it is that just makes you feel good about coming in on a Monday, doesn't it? And it's just unlike anything that I've ever been around.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you've obviously had a pretty quick path to progression here. You know, you've been in it for a little bit over a year. You're now in a position where you're going to be moving down, starting your own company, moving to a different city, which is obviously very, very exciting.
Yeah, definitely.
Has it been a pretty smooth journey so far?
I would say the latter half of the journey definitely got a lot smoother. The beginning was definitely not that smooth at all.
Okay.
I didn't come in with natural sales ability. I definitely didn't come in with natural team building ability, and I could definitely not sit across from someone and take an appointment with them. It was something that I completely had to go and change my whole skill set to be able to go and do. So I think for me, the beginning of the journey, when I came in, I wanted to be a millionaire tomorrow. I wanted to be running my own company within 4 weeks, millionaire within the first 6 months, and then never have to work a day in my life. And I think maybe a lot of people have that perspective when they come into an opportunity like this. It's obviously not possible, right? So the biggest thing that I learned along my journey was that it's going to take time. I'm not going to get there straight away. I need to learn the skills, learn my craft, learn how to develop people around about me as well in order to get there. And it was just that big switch and finding that new wave of what I wanted to think on. And it's not going to happen straight away. I need to slow down, take it as it comes. And it was just developing myself. I was never really good at anything when I started. And it was just finding those little things I could get really good at, make it kind of my expertise, and then go into the other parts and try and develop those things as well. So it was just the journey at the start was just trying to get better at everything all at once, which took some time. I wanted to do it faster. But now that I learned those skills, the beauty of this industry is you're just getting better at the same things. You don't need to go and reinvent anything. You don't need to go and come up with any new tricks. It's all the same things that people have done before you. And once you learn how to do those skills, it's just developing those same skills. It's pretty simple to just start getting better and better at the same things. Obviously, you're going to have learning curves along the journey of that as well. But it's just kind of developing yourself on the same attributes which you learn on your very first day. And first couple of weeks you start to develop them. So it was just learning those first couple of weeks that it's not going to take a couple of weeks to get to being a millionaire.
I like the ambition though.
Yeah,
you got to respect it, right? And you've described it there, and it sounds so simple. You know, I mean, you've been in it for a year. You've got people in your team of what is it, 15, 16?
Yeah, 15.
It's a big crew you're running here, right? But if it was that simple, obviously every single person would do it, and it would happen like that for everybody. But it doesn't for the vast majority of people that come into the industry. So help me sort of unpack this a bit more. You've said it's simple. You just need to learn the skill set. How did you go about developing this skill set you've got now?
Yeah, so I think the big thing you have to start off with is a strong foundation of sales. So your sales ability is going to be rubbed off onto the people around about you. So if you can only do 2 sales in a day, they're only going to be able to go and do 1. So the very first thing that I had to try and get better at was getting really good at sales. And I didn't do that by myself, definitely not. There was mentors who I had in the business who came in and were really, really good at sales with lots of sales experience. And the big thing was just trying to learn from them, take little hook lines that they have, take little phrases that they use, trying to be as direct as them when I'm obviously pitching customers, and just learning that phase. Now, that didn't take me a couple of weeks to get good at. I think it maybe took me 6, 7, 8 months until I was actually good at sales. A lot of people come in and they look at me and go and do 4 or 5 sales every day, and they're like, oh, this guy's, he must have just did it when he started. The big thing is definitely not. No, I could barely struggle to go and do 3 sales, and I would go and graft every single time I was on the field, running around the whole time to go and do 3 sales. It was just to develop that skill set. And at the start, it's just practice. You need to practice and practice and practice your sales skill. Closing is the most important part of sales. If you are only doing 3 closes a day, you're never going to really get anywhere. And then that ties into the next part, which is obviously retraining. So we need to get better at developing people as well in order to continue to grow in the opportunity. I felt like when I started retraining people, my sales ability got even better as well. Which most people think is the opposite of that. So they think, oh, I can't start building, I need to get my sales up. It's the complete opposite. Your sales is going to start to get better and better just from you teaching other people around about you. You're teaching yourself everything you're doing right already. You're re-putting in all those thoughts and all those lines that you were using into someone else's head, and you're kind of remembering them yourself and getting better at them. And then it comes down to closing. If you're helping new people close their customers, you're closing more customers than you were in doing a day by yourself. So if I can only go and close 6 customers by myself, but I take 3 people to the field, and then we're closing 10 to 12 customers, a collective group, but I'm closing all of them, my closing ability is going to get so much better. And that just made the field a lot easier for me as time went on. Starting to train and develop people actually made my sales ability better. So that's why I think it ties into it all together and can be quite simple sometimes. Because if you start getting good at one thing, you can then use those skills in the next part, and it all kind of ties together. And then in terms of developing people, which is the biggest part of the business, I'm still learning how to do that. Obviously, there's everyone's getting better. I'm still getting better at sales and retraining. For developing people, it was more just trying not to baby them too much. I think I made some mistakes with that when I first started, just wanting them to go and do good and trying to mollycoddle them and wrap them up in cotton wool. But learning how to actually set people up to be independent, to teach them the skill instead of just wanting to go and make sure they have a good day and they're not, sour at the end of the day. And being able to teach them that actual skill is what actually changed my career, I think, towards the last couple of months. Being able to teach people how to be independent, teach them the sales skill that I learned. And again, that just comes through practice with them, setting them up and giving them 100% of my energy in the day to go and learn all those skills. And so setting them up for success by them doing it instead of me just doing it all for them. So you teach them how to fish, not go and fish and give them the fish themselves.
Okay, so but you've obviously talked about there, going out and helping the guys that are within your crew, kind of helping them close as well. Is that not a little bit like doing the fishing for them?
Yeah, so when they first start, I always get them to learn 3 to 5 sentences at the start. So you get a customer up to a certain point, I'm going to do the rest for you. And then the whole point of that is then you push the boat out further and further and further, so that by their 3rd day, I'm then saying to them, look, you should be up to the close by yourself now. But the thing as well, if I don't go and close it for them, they're never going to see a customer get closed. They're never going to have that sort of interaction at that point as well. So it's about stepping in at the start to show them how it's done, and then setting those expectations and the standards in place that you will be starting to do this by yourself, and setting that up very early. So you'll watch me for a full day. We'll get you speaking to people at the end of the day. 2nd day, we need to get up to this point. And then by 3rd day, we're going to start to develop your closing, and you can obviously practice it with customers. I think the big thing for me was learning that if they lose a customer, it's way more beneficial for them than stepping in, doing the sale for them, and then just, giving them the sale for it and they get paid for it. It teaches them a valuable lesson. If I just go in and step in with that customer and the customer is just about over the buying line, and I go in and finish it off, close the customer, signed up, ready to go, they're getting paid for it, they're getting a good feeling, but it's not really setting them up for future. It's just learning how to kind of get them up to be independent, and it starts from maybe having those little tough moments at the beginning so they get used to it. Entrepreneurship's definitely not easy. It wasn't an easy journey to get to where I am. It was a lot of late nights, hard work getting to where I am, and a lot of learning and development. If you try and fast track that process for someone, you're just ending up, setting them up for failure at the end as well.
So you've obviously pushed the boat out pretty far yourself, right? You're one of the top performance salespeople in the entire direct sales industry. Talk to me a bit more about the specifics that you went through to get to that point, because there's a pretty significant gap between you and the average salesperson now. Obviously, that wasn't always the case.
No, definitely not. Yeah.
How'd we get to where we are now?
Yeah. So I think the big thing for me was knowing I wasn't the best. Admitting to myself that I wasn't really that good. And there was a lot of people around about me who were definitely a lot better. I think sometimes when you start to get quite decent at sales, maybe doing 10, 12 a week, you think, oh, I'm good at this. I can go and do this every day. But for me, it was always when I was at that point, I was like, I'm really, really bad at this. Even though I was maybe average, right? But I was just always wanting to be the best. And to get to that best point, I had to learn from other people around about me. So going and grabbing someone who I could do 25 in a week and just saying to him, what do you say when someone says this? What do you do if a customer does this? How do you get around this objection? How do you close a customer if they say they want to speak to their partner, X, Y, and Z? And just finding out that information. The big tip that I give to all my new people is be a sponge. So there's lots of information out there in the world. You can soak it all in and hold it in you, and when you need to, release all that information and put it out. Or you can just kind of float about and you can get one ear in one ear and out the other. I feel like I can be sometimes like that as well, but it's a big thing of being a sponge, taking the information from those people who are at the top, taking little tiny lines. Like sometimes one line can change the whole conversation. It's not like you need to be pitch perfect the exact same way they do it. Everyone needs to be unique. Everyone needs to buy into you. They can't think you're just reading off a script, So it's all about having a conversation with the customer and learning those little phrases that you can put into your sponge. And when it's ready to go, release that sponge, let all of it out. And then it's just practice as well. It comes back down to practice. It's the same thing. If you want to go and do 50 kick-ups, you're going to have to start doing 5, 10, 15, 20. You can't just start doing 50 straight away. You need to learn how to develop it slowly and slowly and slowly. And it comes back to what I was saying at the start. It's not going to happen straight away. You're not going to learn how to go and do 20 sales overnight. You might be able to go and do a lot of sales in your first week because you're really excited, which a lot of people can go and do, but you need to learn how to do that skills to be able to fundamentally do it week in, week out.
And that actually leads me perfectly into my next point, which is the consistency element. Because it's one thing to be quite good at sales, but it's quite another to be consistently quite good at sales, because you have loads of people out there that'll be quite up and down. They might have a really big week followed by a really bad week, and then it kind of ping pongs back and forth. You seem to have cracked this consistency element of being a high performing salesperson week in, week out. Talk to me about the consistency part of it.
Yeah, so I think it ties into two main things. So number one is what you say to yourself, and then number two is taking the right actions to get that actual result. So the most important one for me is what you actually say to yourself. Okay. So before I go out and do my sales, when I'm setting myself up for the morning, it's about that positive affirmation. I'm going to go and do great today. And it's not I hope I go and do well. I think I'm going to go and have a good day. It's I am going to go out and have a great day. I am going to be a top performer today. I am going to go out and get 5 customers, for example. Now, when I started, I definitely wasn't saying I was going to go and do 5. I started off at 3, built it up to 5, and then now it's just learning how to consistently get that. And the way I consistently get that is just through my actions. So it's the same thing day in, day out. If you change the recipe, you're going to get a different thing at the end of it. It's a different outcome. So when I go to the field, I know I'm going to start pitching, and from the start of the day, I'm running from the start of the day. And you've seen it yourself when you came out with me.
I was sore the day after.
Sales is a numbers game, and you can get a bit better at working the numbers. You can maybe get a bit better at being able to persuade people. But sales comes down to being a numbers game. I can't go out and speak to 5 people and get them all to sign up. I need to speak to a certain amount of people to go and hit that. So work ethic comes down to it being the major thing. That's just an action in itself. I'm working hard. I'm going out and speaking to as many people as I can as possible, because that's how I'm going to get the best result. If you mosey about and maybe walk, or you don't go and have that urgency of getting to the field and getting to that next customer, you're going to see that in your results, because there's no urgency to it in relation to your results. If you want to go and be successful, you want to have a great day, you need to put the work in to go and get it. Otherwise, your results will show for it. The second one of all is just learning that every interaction is going to be different. So I can't control what the customer says. If the customer says no and I overturn them and they say no, and then I overturn them again and they say no, and then maybe the third time they say no again, and I will call it. But it's just learning that if I do the same pitch to 60 people to 80 people every single day, and not everyone's going to be the same outcome, but there is going to be some yeses in there. My consistent pitch, my consistent action with my pitch will get me that correct result at the end of the day. And then third of all, it ties into that kind of relating back to the first thing of a positive mindset, a positive attitude. You need to know what's happening. You need to know what's going to come. If you say to yourself, I hope it comes, I really think that it's going to come at some point, you're not going to get there because you're not really putting it into the world, you're not putting it into existence. Every time I go to the field, I say, I'm the best, I'm going to be the best, I'm going to go and do a great job today, I'm going to go and win my day. And it's setting myself up with my affirmations, and then on the field, it doesn't matter if it's 4 o'clock and I'm not on any, 5 o'clock I'm not on any, 6 o'clock I'm not on any, it does not make a difference. Each day is going to be different. I could have a really great start of the day, and all my customers at the start of the day were all positive and they all said yes, and then a slow end of the day. But if I started at the other side and then worked my way towards that end, I would have had a great finish to the day and a slow start to the day. So it's just knowing that every day is going to be different. Your actions are the things that are going to get you to having those consistent results, and your positive affirmations is what's going to drive your mind, your body to go out and actually get those results.
Attitude is a topic that we talk about loads within the direct sales industry, and it's something that is a learning curve, I think, for anybody, really anybody that comes in, because it's not a natural thing to be positive, and particularly the word itself is something, at least in my personal experience, was exclusively used in a negative manner when I was a kid. I don't know about you, but it was always like, Cal, why you got a bad attitude? You know, like, don't give me attitude. It's always a bad thing. We talk so much in the direct sales industry about attitude in a good way. How did you develop that positive attitude that you have now?
So I think from the beginning, on my very first couple days, so you've got 3 controllables in a day. You got your pitch, your pace, and your attitude. And at the beginning, I was starting to get good at sales, and then it was actually Jules who broke down my day once. He probably won't remember this, but he broke down my day and he said, it's either your pitch, your pace, or your attitude. And I was like, well, my pitch was the same as yesterday. And I spoke to the same amount of people, and then he said, what do you think it is? And I was like, oh. I think attitude is kind of, you have to first realize what it actually is. So you might think you're being really, really positive all day, but sometimes you can poker face it. I've definitely been there before where you poker face the attitude. It's like, yeah, I'm at a 10, but in my mind, I'm at a 7. Your attitude is being from head to toe, 10 out of 10, ready to go. No matter what comes in your way, no matter what obstacle comes in your way, learning how to get around that, finding the door to get to that next opportunity, finding the door to get around that obstacle. And your attitude is just having that solution-focused mindset to be able to go out and do it. If you fall at the first hurdle, you're not really going to get very far. And that's not having a positive attitude. But having a positive attitude is just, no matter what happens, no matter what comes in my way today, no matter what obstacle gets thrown in my face, I'm going to find a way to get around it. And for me, it becomes getting into a flow state of having that positivity and mental attitude. So I play a lot of sports. Basketball is my main one. If you get into a flow state and you're not really thinking about, is the ball going to go in? Am I going to get past this defender? Am I going to be able to, make this pass? It all starts to naturally happen. Whereas if you think, oh, I don't know if that shot's going in. That was a really bad pass. I'm not going to be able to get past this guy. He's too fast. You start to put those negative thoughts into your own head. And then more than likely not, that's normally what happens. That's normally the outcome. Whereas if you if you don't really think, you just do it. That's a great Nike quote.
Nice.
If you don't think about anything and you have that positive mindset from the beginning, and you just think about getting around those obstacles and not overthinking the action and just doing it and putting your full head and mindset into that one direction, it normally likely comes with that positive outcome of what you actually wanted to go and achieve.
Great. I'm going to link back something you said earlier to basketball. Now that I know, I remember you've mentioned before you're into basketball, but obviously Michael Jordan, the GOAT, right?
Absolutely.
You've watched The Last Dance. And see, there's a story he tells in The Last Dance about, I can't remember what the player was, but basically he says that he had convinced himself that this guy was like, oh, good game, Mike. Do you remember what I'm talking about, right? And he basically, for those who don't know what I'm talking about, that he convinced himself that this player had slighted him in some way, and he'd been like, talking talking some trash at the end of the game. And so the next time they played him, like 3 months later, he like absolutely destroyed this team and this player and totally humiliated him. And then he tells us in the documentary, he's like, yeah, I made it up. He never actually told him that, but his self-talk, he'd convinced himself and used that as his drive. So you mentioned earlier about your self-talk, about what you say to yourself. Talk to me a bit more about that.
Yeah, so I think your mind is the most powerful thing. Obviously, the human body's been studied for thousands upon thousands of years. I don't think we really know what our brains can do yet. No. I think it'll be forever a mystery. So it's that whole thing of your mind is the biggest driving factor on what you can go and achieve. You don't really have to be very physical to do this. In anything, you don't need to have any physical attributes unless it is sports to go and be really, really successful. It all comes down to your mind. Even for professional athletes, you could be the top peak of your game. If you don't have that positive mindset of that you are going to go and be successful, you more than likely won't end up getting there. So I think your mindset and the positive things you say to yourself and getting your brain into that state of we're going to go out and achieve, this is the time we're going to go out and do it, and getting your clock into that sort of flow where you're waking up at the same time, you're going to do your job at the same time, or for us, you're going in and doing your sales, you're developing your people, you're planning for the next day. It's about getting into that constant flow. Your brain knows when it's time to get shit done. Your brain knows when it's time to maybe switch off for 20 minutes, relax, and just kind of zone out a bit. And that's what I kind of do on the weekends. You know, it's good to have that time where you're not thinking about work and you're mental reset in your brain, but you need to have that kill switch, that flick where, yeah, I'm doing this. I need to get stuff done now. And maybe being able to build that into your brain takes time, but it's about knowing that you're going to be able to go and get it done and just being able to flick that switch of, yep, it's happening now. And that comes down to the field. As soon as I hit the field, I flick that switch. Everything else zoned out. I'm tunnel visioned on my goal. And it's just, I'm going to go and achieve it. I am the best. And let's fucking go.
Great.
Yeah.
I love that. It's okay. You're allowed to swear. I'm not
just clarifying, yeah.
It's fine. So you've obviously done a lot in your first year or so within the direct sales industry. I know there's going to be a lot of new people out there who are young, they're ambitious, and they see what you've achieved and they want to get to your level.
Yep.
What advice do you have for those people who are maybe new in the industry and want to achieve what you've done but don't know how to get started?
Yeah, so I think the number one thing is it ties back to what I was saying earlier. You need to be a sponge. You need to go and take all this information from other people. So there's people who have gone and achieved what you wanted to go and achieve. There's people who have maybe even exceeded that, and there's people in our industry who have obviously gone and have very lucrative, very successful careers. If you want to learn how to even start getting on those stepping stones and those lily pads towards that direction, you need to just go and ask some questions. I think a big thing that comes into then is the second of all thing is breaking comfort zones. So when I first came into the industry, I wasn't really introvert or an extrovert. I was probably like slap bang in the middle. But if you told me to go and do this or go and speak into a front of a crowd of people, I would have not gone and done it. Absolutely not. So it's about breaking those comfort zones and learning how to kind of just communicate with people. And obviously that's a big part of our job, but I think it's a very, very valuable skill in life in general. Communication is the most valuable thing. You can't replace human communication. You know, AI is being a massive thing now. You don't even know what's going to happen with tech in the future. Robots will probably replace all manufacturing jobs and supermarkets and everything. Communication is something that will never disappear. So it's a great industry to get into because of that, and I think you need to learn how to start to break those comfort zones, how to get better at communication, and it just comes into practice and kind of not having fear. So the third thing is a lot of people have fear of failure, and fear of not succeeding. And what I always say to my guys is, you have this big fear of failure, but you never know if you'll succeed if you have that failure and that fear inside of you. You'll never know what could have happened, you know, what might have been if you gave it everything, if you didn't think about what if, and just actually gave it your all to go and achieve it. So it's about not having fear of breaking those comfort zones and just chucking yourself in the deep end and learning how to swim. And over time, you start to get better at it. You'll start to get better at your public speaking. You'll start to get better at communicating with people. Your sales will go up. Your training ability will go up. You'll start to develop more people, and you will start to see that kind of progress in that right direction of your career. So be a sponge, break your comfort zones, and then just don't have that fear that you're not going to be able to go and do it, because that's what's going to hold you back from actually going and being successful.
That's scary though. That's scary not having that that safety blanket, that comfort zone.
Yeah.
And I suppose part of that maybe is just that what you do is difficult, and maybe it isn't for everybody. Fair enough, because you know that it can be scary, particularly when it's something that's commission based, and you know you do have that thing hanging over your head of, oh, if I don't do any sales, I'm not gonna make any money, kind of thing. And Gilles and I spoke on one of the previous episodes about that voice in your head, you know, that voice that says, oh, you're gonna have a bad day, and you're like, no, I don't want to have a bad day. It's like, no, you're gonna have a bad day, as the voice says, right? So let's say I'm a new person and I've listened to you, I say, okay, right, I want to break out of my comfort zone. I don't want to be afraid. How do you do that?
Yeah, you're gonna do it. You're gonna have those butterflies in your stomachs, and you're not gonna really want to do it. Definitely when I started, and you start teaching people very early on. You're speaking in front of like maybe 2-3 people, and inside my stomach was churning. I was like, oh, I don't want to do this. But there's it's about putting that in the right direction. Taking those butterflies and just taking it in one direction, and just jumping in that deep end, just going for it. Realistically, what's the worst that's gonna happen? You may be speaking in front of 2 and 3 people, and you start,
stuttering.
Stuttering, and you can't really get it out, or whatever. Are you going to remember that in 5 years? Probably not. Are they going to remember it 20 minutes later? Probably not. So it's about learning that all the negative thoughts are most of the time only in your head. They're not really out in the universe, and they'll only go out into the universe if you speak them into the universe. So it's about, you will get those negative thoughts. You will have that time in your head where you'll say, what if I don't do well? But no one else round about you is thinking that. It's just all in your own head, and it's learning that the thoughts are only in your head. They're not into the universe yet. But if you speak them into the universe, more than likely not, maybe, you will have a bad day. So it's about learning to address it and not just think about those thoughts in that negative way, but just know that they're there and just still point your butterflies in that right direction of, no, I'm not going to listen to that. This is where I want to be. To get there, I need to do this. So if I fail, I'm going to get back up and try again. But it's knowing that not everything's going to be perfect as well. There's a journey along the way. Everyone's on their own journey. Whether it takes you 5 years to go and run your own company, or 1 year, 2 years, by the end of it, you still hit your end goal. So does it really matter? No one remembers all those times that people were like Michael Jordan were in the gym training hours and upon hours and hours and hours to get to where he wanted to be. They just remember him sitting with a trophy on his lap. So it's not about that. The failures along the way. It's about learning how to. Those triumphs, you have those successes, and that's what it's all about, really, isn't it?
It's about the journey. It's not about the destination.
Exactly.
I get that. And do you listen to podcasts?
Yeah,
aside from this one, obviously.
Yeah, obviously.
I think this was from the Mo Guarded episode with Stephen Bartlett, where he talks about anxiety and excitement being the exact same, like, physiological reaction. When you're anxious or when you're excited, it's the same physical thing. It's like you have that butterfly feeling, you have that kind of tingly sort of excitement, and the difference is how you interpret it in your brain. It's that energy is there, and your brain is what dictates whether you translate that as, ooh, I'm nervous, or ooh, I'm excited. That's such a key thing that we talk about in the direct sales industry, is that how to, as you said it, like, look at everything. How can I get past this? Look and developing that attitude. What's that journey been like for you? Because I can't imagine that you came in with that strong attitude.
No, definitely not. I think, as I was saying earlier, it's realizing that, maybe sometimes you didn't have a perfect attitude that day, and realizing that, okay, what was it I was saying to myself, and figuring out when it happened as well. So sometimes you can go to the field, and from 2 p.m. until 4 p.m, I'm 10 out of 10. I'm buzzing. I'm ready to go. And then from 4 till 6, I don't get the results yet, and I'm start going into panic mode, or you start feeling anxious, as you're saying. There's 2 ways to think about it. You can start getting anxious that it's 4 to 6 and you're not on a sale, or as you're saying, you can get excited that now most people are going to be home, all your bill payers are going to be back now, and it's time to just reset the day. So it's that learning how to deal with your attitude, because you are going to have those times where you maybe think about it. I still get it now, where I may be on the field and I've been out there for an hour and I'm like, oh, one's not dropping yet. But then I'm just like, oh, it'll happen. And then it's just addressing that is there, and then you will find naturally that if you keep doing it enough and you keep saying, like, addressing the negative thought, and will go away, that over time it'll just take 2 seconds and it's gone. I don't have a 10 out of 10 attitude completely throughout 24/7 of my life, but I can definitely lose it for a split second, then get it back again. And it's about learning that, yes, sometimes you will not be a 10 out of 10 positive attitude. Sometimes you will have that negative thought, but everyone's going to have it. And it's learning that you need to address it, get it out the way, and obviously just keep going. If you have that negative thought and stop, you're just going to start going backwards, and you start going to kind of seeing that negative effect from it. But if you just address it and keep going with that kind of flow and motion into the right direction, you're going to end up scoring. You might not score all the time, and that's learning to kind of deal with that, but it's the same, just keep going.
Great. I love that. So you've obviously, we're on the topic of negativity here. Like, you've moved to a different city. I know you're from up north.
Yeah, Inverness.
Right. Okay, so you've moved several hours away from home. You've gone and started doing entrepreneurship. You're doing door-to-door sales on a commission basis. What was the family's reaction when you told them you were going to leave uni to then go and do that?
Yeah, so it was quite different, actually, I think, for most people. So my dad done sales for like 40 years.
Nice. Okay, that's
so
helpful.
Maybe it's a hidden talent a little bit. But, and he was obviously on commission. It definitely wasn't door to door. He would have never done that, I don't think. But he didn't think of it in a negative way. But it was just that he obviously knew what sales was like. He knew you had your highs. He knew you had your lows. And it was at the start, it was kind of me just sending him the bulletin and being like, Dad, I'm number 3 in the country. And he was getting really excited with me. And he was really a positive person for me to actually go there. So hands down, definitely someone who helped me get to where I wanted to be very early on. And then when I started to build teams and stuff, it was kind of opening him up to a different side of the sales thing. So he just done sales for 40 years. He never taught sales. He never run a company. He was always working for someone else. Still, obviously, self-employed, but it's just under someone else. It was kind of teaching him that side of it, and then from that, he kind of opened his eyes up to the bigger picture. He thought I was just doing sales and that I was gonna go and have some fun, make some good money, but I was kind of widening his eyes to that bigger picture. And for other family, they kind of knew that I was gonna maybe kind of not go into education for much longer. I wasn't really enjoying it. I wasn't really happy there. I wanted to go and find something that I could just dig my teeth into and just go for it. And then lucky enough, I found this. I think the bigger one for me on that was friends. It was more, not that I wasn't getting negativity from friends, it was that I kind of had to remove them from my bubble.
Okay.
I was dead set on doing it. No matter if I was going to go in for a year and maybe not get the results I wanted and have to go back the way. But realistically, I would have been in the same place I was at if I did or not do it. So it didn't make any difference to me. I was giving it everything for that year. But for me, it was just that none of them really were like... interested in the journey, if that makes sense.
Okay.
So it wasn't like they were negative about it, but it was just like no one really knew what I was doing. No one really cared.
It was like they didn't really understand. They're like, well, why are you working such long hours? Like, well,
yeah. It was having to, obviously, when you work that long and you're trying to learn the skills to build a business, and you're not going to have that, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday night to go and hang out with your mates, which obviously I missed that, but now I would not change it for the world. And now I'm happy to go and put in those extra hours of work to build my future. What I see for myself is I want long-term happiness, not short-term enjoyment. So going out with your mates and going and having a good time is really enjoyable. But for me, it wasn't going to make me happy in my long-term life. And that's really what I want. I want that long-term happiness. I want that freedom. I want that to be able to go and do what I want and experience life for what it is. And kind of been learning that sometimes maybe friends that you had along when you're younger and were with you for a long time, maybe they're not on that same journey, which is fine. Everyone's on their own journey. But it was maybe learning that sometimes you do just have to disconnect and find some new friends, which I've obviously found in the industry, find new people who are going to push you to go and be successful. And that was the big thing for me. I just wanted to be really successful. And if it meant maybe not having the same friend group I did 2 years ago, then it is what it is.
Right, it was the sacrifice you were willing to make, which makes sense. And we're gonna come back to goals in a little bit, but I wanted to get your thoughts on dealing with negativity from family specifically. You've been quite fortunate in that your dad was in sales, and so they get it. And I had the same sort of fortune. Not that my parents were in sales, but I think Americans look at it differently. They're like, "That's awesome! What a great opportunity!" I'm just like, "Thanks for being a stereotype, Mom and Dad. Love that." What advice do you have for people who maybe are dealing with some pushback from family, from friends about going into the same industry as you?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit harder when you first start off because you can't really explain the business that well as someone who runs their own company, or maybe someone like myself who's been able to had to explain the business to numerous people. But I think it's your results speak louder than your words. You know, your actions speak louder. If they see a change and a positive change in you, you're more upbeat, you're more lively, you're getting out of bed on time, you're maybe not sitting in bed all day on the weekend. They're going to see that positive result from learning the habits of the industry, and they're going to think of it in a positive way. If you say to them, I'm going to go out and make £1,000 a week, and you maybe don't explain the business that well, and then 2 weeks later you're asking mum for 20 quid to go to the shops, it doesn't really add up in their heads.
Yep.
So I think it's learning to explain the business, and explaining the business at the beginning for what I would recommend for people who maybe are explaining it to their parents and family is an entrepreneurial career path, which is backed by a corporate company, providing you with stability, security, financial backing to go and have that opportunity to go and be an entrepreneur with the safety net of that corporate company. And then you're going to learn skills such as sales, how to win people over, how to sell yourself, how to get people to buy into you. And then once you start to develop into the program, you're then going to learn how to take appointments with people, how to retrain people, how to develop people. And then a big one for me is how to be a leader. So I think being a leader is the most valuable skill on the planet. So whenever I'm explaining the business, I always talk about Elon Musk. So Elon Musk is obviously hyper intelligent. He's very, very successful. He's also a very good leader, though. He takes a group of people and has a common goal in mind for all of them, and he's able to drive everyone towards that common goal, and he'll go and hit that goal with them. Whether he fails along the way and they have to kind of regroup and go on again, he will always go and take that people towards that common goal. And that leadership skill is so valuable in life. Whether you want to go and do direct sales the rest of your life, or you want to go and maybe run your own business doing something else, you need those leadership qualities. And I think this business teaches you that through and through from the beginning. So it's about explaining the business, and then your results will speak louder than your words. But it's explaining it properly, I think, is the most important thing. It's the skill set you learn along the way.
What does leadership mean to you?
Yeah. For leadership, it's like maybe sacrificing my own results or my own initial progress to help other people straight away. And then getting people towards that common goal. And driving them towards going and being successful. If it's all about me, and I want to go and do this, and I want to go and be rich, you guys are going to help me get there. No one's really going to buy into that. No one's really excited about that, and I definitely wouldn't follow that myself. So I think leadership is being the collective team and being able to take them all together into one place and being like, look, we all have got these goals and ambitions to achieve. We've all got these purposes that we want to go and achieve in life. This is what we need to do to get there. This is what we're going to achieve as a team. This is what I want you to achieve as an individual. And being able to just dig deeper into what people want, and because not everyone's going to want the same as me. Not everyone would have maybe thought I'm going to be a millionaire in 4 weeks when they came in. Maybe some people just want to get quite good at sales, right? So I'm going to have that sit down. I'm going to learn how to get them better at sales, and then I'm going to teach them how to get better at sales. And for me, that's leadership, being able to find out what someone wants and help them and push them in the right direction towards that goal. And then obviously, as I was saying earlier, that's what I learned at the start. Sometimes you have to teach them those hard lessons in order for them to get there. You can't just do it for them. Sometimes you have to teach them how to go and do it. So I think leadership's teaching people to kind of take the most of an opportunity and help them going towards their goals and achieving them.
I love that. That's the way I always thought about leadership is helping someone else achieve something they didn't think they could achieve. I think there's no better feeling. I don't know about you, but for me, I always got more of a buzz when someone that I had mentored had a big day rather than myself having a big day.
Absolutely. It's more fulfilling. I feel like when you start learning that when you do stuff for other people, it comes back in tenfold. Is the feeling, the excitement, and you feel it for someone else, and it doesn't affect you at all how well they do. But knowing that I've taught them how to do a skill, they've then used that skill to go out and make £200-300 today, and they're absolutely buzzing. I've never seen them smiling and laughing this much so much. It's that feeling inside where you're just like, that was so fulfilling. It's much worth your time, more worth than going out and doing an extra sale yourself and making 50, 100 quid yourself.
For sure.
It's just that feeling of, I've actually done that for someone. And I think what Gio's always talks about is this business changes lives. And hopefully one day I can go and do the same, like he has for myself, and go and change someone else's life. That's what leadership is to me.
I love that. So let's talk goals then, because I know you've got big ones. I can tell.
Yeah.
First of all, how do you? I want to talk how you approach setting goals, because you've mentioned there, you need to have inclusive goals.
Yeah.
So how do you go about setting goals?
Yep. So it always starts off with the end in mind.
Okay.
So for over the coming weeks, we've got a big couple of weeks coming up, and we've got a goal to do X amount of sales. I won't leak it because I want
Top secret.
win. Yeah. So we've got a goal to go and do X amount of sales. I need to think about, we are here, so we're at A and we need to get to B. What does it look like to go and get to that goal? So I need to think of, who do I need to develop to get to that stage? What do I need to go and do myself to get to that stage? What do the guys need to go and learn how to get to that stage as well? And then it's being able to look at the bigger picture. So sometimes just stopping and zooming out and being like, okay, I'm really good at this. I could do a bit better at that. This is my superpower, this is my kryptonite, and learning how to develop that kryptonite, because normally it's one little tiny change to go and really make a big expansion in your business or really big growth in a team. So it's about being able to look at what you're good at, what you're maybe not so good at, and just being really critical of yourself and thinking, yeah, I could definitely do better at that, or maybe someone in my team needs a lot more help on this. I need to go and give them that help, or put them in the right direction of someone who can go and give them that help. And then for goals, it's just, what I say is shoot for the stars, and if you land on Mars, you're still on Mars, so life's gonna be all right.
That's cheesy. I love it. But right. I'm here for it, but that's cheesy. I love it.
Pushing the boat out and keep going as far as you can. If you set your goal to go out and do 50 sales as a team, you're only gonna go and do 30. If you set your goal to go and do 250 and you go to 200, but you only set your goal originally to do 200 and you drop to 180, you would have never been able to get to that next point. So it's about pushing up to the highest bit you possibly can, and a goal's a goal for a reason. You need to be able to put that system in place to go and achieve it. If you just write it down and think, yeah, I'm going to go and achieve it, you're not really setting out any goals in place to go and hit in between. So put mini goals in place, think what you need to change to get to that bigger goal, and then it comes back to being that leader, getting everyone together, finding out what they want. Not everyone's going to want a team to go and do X amount of sales, because it doesn't really benefit them in any way. It's finding out what they want, finding out what they want to achieve, and just doing the same thing. We're at A with you right now. We want to get to B. What do we need to learn to get there? Whether it's better overturning, develop the pitch, so on and so forth. And then putting that leadership quality into good use is just pointing them in the right direction of where they need to get that information, because I can't give them everything.
Okay, great. We're going to talk about your goals in a second, but I'm really curious because you've mentioned this, and it's a concept Gilles talked about as well, with the superpower and the kryptonite.
Yeah.
What's your kryptonite?
That's a good question. I think for me, my kryptonite right now is being able to get people to my level. I don't think I can do it as of now. Okay. So I don't think I could be able to develop someone up to my level right now. So that kryptonite is actually developing people to being of, a directorship level, to being of a big team builder level. I think it would just take time, because I've only obviously just done it. I don't know necessarily every step I took to get to where I am. And I was just learning how to get someone to that level. So that's definitely my kryptonite now. And I think when I first started, my kryptonite was sales.
Right.
I could only do maybe like 8 in a week.
Wow.
And I think learning to get better at it, and then a lot of times your kryptonites then become your superpowers. It was what I found. So as sales started off as my kryptonite, now it's my superpower. So hopefully developing people will be my next one.
Great, I love that. So 8 in a week, and what's your personal best in a week now?
Like 32.
4 times, no? Not too bad.
No, that's all right.
Quick math there. Okay, great. So goals. We'll talk goals now. So we know how you set them. What are yours? Do you think short, medium, long term? Like, what are your goals?
Yeah. So I always have long-term stuff in the back of my mind.
Okay.
And I think that's more bigger picture stuff and what I want to actually achieve. For me, I'll most of the time think very short-term. on like a week by week basis. So I always think, what do I want to achieve today? What do I want to achieve this week? And take it week at a time. If you set like, and when I started, I would set out like 6-week plans and stuff like that, and I would never really see myself hitting that 6-week goal. For me, it just came back to being in that present moment, being able to hit that goal day by day, and those days then compound and compound. Those weeks will then compound and get me to where I wanted to be in that 6 weeks anyway. But it's kind of thinking in that moment and being present on what I'm doing today to go and achieve that. What I do today is then going to get me a better result for that future. But then in terms of maybe longer term goals for the next year, I want to go down, open up my own office. My goal is to get up to around £20,000 MSF within my first year. I want to be 22 years old and be in the top 1% of earners is my goal. So then I think I will go and do it. And then for 3 to 5 years, in 3 years, I want to get better at my kryptonite. So I want to get better at developing people to my level, maybe have 2-3 other people who I've been able to go and give this opportunity to is what I really want to do. And then after that 3 years, jumping on to 5 years, I want to take over the UK. So I want to have offices in every major UK city. I want to be nationwide, and then I want to get out of the UK after I made a little empire. I want to go to the States. So Gilles went a couple of weeks ago, and he went to America and to New York and built relationships with people over there. I want to go and experience the world. I love the UK. The people here are absolutely amazing, especially Glaswegians. They're top tier.
Yes.
But I want to go and experience the world for more of what it's got to offer. I want to go to America. I want to see the big city lights. I want to go and have an office in America, and then kind of experience life over there for a bit better weather as well. So
Depends on where you go.
Yeah, well, I have to get some advice from you before I go.
Okay, where are you thinking?
So I would either go New York or California.
Okay, if you're talking weather, go to California because New York's amazing. It's the big city, and it is very cold in the wintertime.
Yeah.
I know you're from up north, but I mean, it's like blizzard cold in New York.
I'll be all right.
That's true. I suppose you Scottish people are a different breed, to be fair. Okay, so you've mentioned there you're looking to become one of the top 1% earners in the UK. Linking back to setting goals that get everybody involved, how do you motivate the people around you to achieve a goal like that? That is obviously quite specific to you.
I don't mention it, to be honest. Me telling that to my guys, it is going to motivate them and be really, not even motivate them, they're going to be inspired by it. Okay. And inspiration will lead them to maybe wanting to do more because they can see it in front of them. But I don't say to my team, I want to be in the top 1% of earners in the UK.
That's the personal goal.
Yeah, it's for me. They're not going to be driven by that. They're going to be inspired and motivated by my goal and by my story, but they're not going to have any self-motivation. So it's about being able to find what actually motivates them, sitting down with them and being like, where do you want to be in the next 2 weeks? Where do you want to be in 6 weeks? Where do you want to be over this next week? We sit down with them on the weekend and kind of set goals for that week on where they want to get to. Because what I want is not what they want. Me achieving a lot and being very successful is not really going to motivate them. It'll inspire them to go and do well, but inspiration is not going to go and get results.
And that is a really good point there because motivation and inspiration are emotional, right? And emotion by definition is fleeting. So when it comes to consistency, something that we talk a lot about is discipline, right? And how that, doing the same thing week in, day out, that's where the long-term success comes from. How do you stay disciplined?
Yeah, so I think it actually ties into what we were talking about just there. To stay disciplined, you need to have goals in place. If you don't have any goals in place, you don't have anything you're striving towards. And then for me, discipline was just a natural thing for me. I obviously can get more disciplined, but I was doing a paper round at 13. I had 2 jobs when I was in high school. I was always really a grafter and really a hard worker. For me, my mindset on discipline now, though, is if I want to hit these goals and be really successful, I need to think about other people who are also wanting to go and hit those goals. Am I working as hard as them? Probably not. Am I as disciplined as them? Probably not. If I wanted to be a millionaire, do I have that millionaire's discipline right now? Probably not. That's where I am where I am and not where I want to be. So it's about realizing that if I want to go and hit these goals and hit these big things and have these big dreams, I need to put in the work to go and do it. It's not going to just get handed to me on a plate. So that discipline just ties into it. The people who have those, lovely lifestyles and they don't really have to worry about money and they have that financial freedom, they're the most disciplined people on the planet. So if I need to get to that level, it's not a question in my mind. I need to be disciplined. I need to be there for my guys every single day. I need to pull consistent results by, obviously holding myself to a higher standard, and I need to go and constantly learn. Otherwise, I'm not going to be able to go and hit my goals and what I want to go and achieve.
Mm-hmm. What is your favorite method of learning, taking on information? You a podcast guy, you a book guy? What's
Audible? I love Audible.
Nice,
yeah.
okay.
So Audible I've had for maybe like 8-9 months now. I used to read books hard copy and then would get halfway through and then not really finish it off. That was just me not being very disciplined with books, I guess. but Audible, yeah, I use Audible a lot. I think for me as well, it's just being able to stick on like a quick 15-minute podcast in the car on the way to work, and then kind of listen to it maybe later on as well to finish it off. It's not sitting down all at once, and most people don't really have 2 hours in the day to sit down and just listen to a whole podcast. So getting little snippets, taking notes throughout is a big thing that helped me with Audible. So going on my notes while I'm listening to it and just jotting down little things. And if I take 5 points after listening for half an hour, then I just really focus on those 5 points over the next couple of weeks if I don't get to listen to it again. And yeah, Audible was a big game changer for me, and that was from Hugh who recommended that. So hopefully you get him on soon. Actually, that'll be amazing.
We're pretty fully booked, but yeah, we're gonna get him on soon. Don't worry. And it's funny, the notes thing is actually something I've started doing as well with the podcast I listen to. Is I've got a note on my phone for like key points, because like there's so much good information out there.
Yeah, 100%.
And I find that I'll be like, oh, that podcast is amazing, and then my wife will be like, oh, what'd you learn? I'll be like, don't know.
Yeah.
And it just, there's so much content out there now. Have you got some favorites, some ones that you feel have been really big in your development that you'd recommend?
I think for me, I was more at the beginning really inspired by people's stories. So I listened to both of David Goggins' books, and it made me feel like a bitch. Plain and simple. And I was like, if he can go on through all these triumphs and have that attitude of, I can do it, I'm not going to give up, it kind of made me feel like, okay, someone saying no to me means nothing.
Can't be that bad.
Yeah, it can't be that bad. My feet aren't broken doing a 100-mile race.
What? Sorry, I don't know much about Goggins.
Yeah, he broke both his feet and he went and done like 100 miles. I think it was a 100-mile race, yeah.
What?
Yeah,
Jesus.
mind blowing. And he taped them up so he couldn't like feel like the ankles moving, and yeah. So if someone says no to me, I think I'm gonna be all right. It's not the end of the world. And so it was just kind of motivational stories. Andrew Huberman, I listened to a lot of his books as well. So it was just like the stories that they went on and the journeys that they had, and just thinking like there's a lot more stuff in the world than my life and my journey. There's a lot of people's stuff that you can learn from. A kind of different sector, Kevin Hart, I really like him.
He's great. He's my favorite comedian.
Yeah, I love him. But he's got a really great quote. He says, in life, once you get to the end of it, think of it that you've just made a book of your whole life. And there'll be some chapters that were really, really good, and there'll be some chapters where you maybe didn't have the time that you wanted. But when you're going through life, think about all those chapters and think about that end book, and really put in that work to have that perfect end book by the end of it. And I think for him being a really funny guy, it's something that's really smart. Sometimes you go over life and you kind of don't think about those times and maybe forget moments that have happened, but it's all a journey along the way, and it kind of learning from him and learning that little quote that he had was really helpful in my journey at the beginning as well.
That's beautiful. I love Kevin Hart. He's so good.
He's awesome.
My wife is like, he's so American because he's just big and loud. He's very small and loud, but the personality's big and loud. He's brilliant. Okay, what is entrepreneurship to you? What does that mean to you?
So I think entrepreneurship for me is the journey to freedom.
Ooh,
yeah,
I like that.
Little mic drop there.
Yeah. Okay. Tell me more.
So I think for me in life, if you're working for someone else, or you're always going towards what they want and their kind of goals. So if you're working in a restaurant and you're doing it all for the restaurant owner at the end of the day, he's obviously paying you your paycheck, you're getting by, you're paying for your rent, you're living your life, but you're not getting any freedom from it. So for me, entrepreneurship is that journey towards freedom. Along that, you're going to develop yourself, to a whole nother level. As I mentioned, I've completely changed since I came into the business. So much more confident, so much better at communicating, and I've learned a high value skill that I had no experience in before at all. And it's a lot of skill development, learning how to constantly develop yourself and, you know, master your craft, which it takes some time, but once you've done it, it's that freedom at the end, that light at the end of the tunnel. And for me, that's just what I want. I want to experience life. I want to have that freedom to go and do whatever I want in life. I feel like it's a lot more than work. But if you work for someone else your whole life, you're never going to be able to experience that freedom.
What are some routine things that you do that give you the highest return?
Yeah. So for me, it doesn't come in during the week. I'm still quite young. I'm not that stage yet of putting in those things in the morning, you know, like ice baths or getting up at a certain time, doing some meditation.
You just wake up and feel good.
Yeah, I'm still young. I wake up, I'm at a 10, let's go.
Enjoy it while it lasts.
Yeah. But for me, it's more the weekend mental reset. So Monday to Friday in direct sales can be pretty full on. You're giving it everything. You're high energy all day. And you're grafting quite hard to go and get a good result. But it's rewarding in return, so you get where you get it. So for me, it's more that weekend reset. So on the weekend, as I was saying earlier, I love basketball. I have to go and play. But for me, it's not that I go and play, you know, to escape work or I need to go and have some time to myself. I go to have fun. I go to switch my brain off, have fun. And for me, it also helps me get back into a flow state as well. So sometimes where during the week you maybe don't fall into that flow state and you don't have that week that you wanted. But for me, going into doing something that I think is actually very similar, I would say sports is very similar to this industry. And getting into that flow state outside of work helps me then go into that following week in that flow mind already where, you know, I've reset my mind, I've had fun on the weekend, and then I went into that flow state into something that's different, but still using that same mental strength, which I think you need in this industry. And I think that's why sports correlates so well, because you need that mental positivity, you need that just can-do attitude, and you need to just go for it and not really think about the outcome at the end of it. And then a big fun for me is just spending time with friends, family on the weekend, having that like one-to-one sit down with a mate who I maybe see every couple of weeks and just talking shit and just having fun with friends. I'm still young. I don't drink or anything like that though. I feel like for me that would just put me on not really setting myself up. And as I was saying earlier, I want that permanent happiness and not short-term enjoyment. So that's just a short-term enjoyment which I felt I could just get rid of out of my life. So now I just have fun with friends playing basketball. I've got a group chat in Glasgow. There's like 200 of us. So
what?
There's a lot of people.
Wow.
Yeah. So there's a lot of us who go and play. You get good relationships with them as well. It's good to see them. And was from all across the world. So you get to meet new faces, meet new people, and then have that like closer just relationships with 1 to 2 people and just having to sit down with them, shoot the shit, have a laugh, and just hang out with people and just create relationships with people as well.
200 people.
Yeah, it's huge, mate.
That's awesome. Okay, I love that. So what is important to you in life then? We've talked about a lot of, we've talked about, you know, your goals, talked about basketball. What's important to you in life?
Yeah, so for me, it comes down into like 3 to 5 things. So number 1, I want time when I'm older to go and do whatever I want. I want the freedom to go and be wherever I want and be with whoever I want to be and be in a place where I want to be. And I want the choices to not really have to think about what I was doing. I don't want to have to go into a shop and look at a price tag and be like, nah, not today. Maybe next week I'll come back. I just want to have that choice. And then the kind of 2 more important ones, experiences. I want to experience life. So we went to Dubai with the company, which was absolutely epic. And there was a Shark Tank in the shopping mall. And me and this other guy, Jack Coverwright, just jumped straight in it. So it was like that experience of what I wanted to go and, you know, I don't want to have I'm a very adrenaline junkie type guy. I want those experiences. I want that kind of fast-paced life. I don't think you can really get that from, you know, a normal job. You can get that from entrepreneurship because it gives you that freedom, it gives you that time, and then I want to go and have those experiences. And then kind of last of all, it's that family. So family is a big thing for me, and it's also future family as well. So I've got a young sister who's 10 years old.
Great.
I want to go and give her a life that I obviously wasn't able to go and have. Not that we weren't well off, not that we struggled, but it was just, you know, that time and freedom for her to go and have everything she wants, and then a future family for myself as well. So for time, that just means to me that I'm not on the clock for someone else. I'm not having to clock in at 9, and if I don't clock in at 9, I'm getting, pay deducted. I'm not having to stay till 5, or I'm not getting paid. It's about having that time to go and do whatever I want to go and do, explore the world, and have those experiences. Freedom is the whole reason I'm doing entrepreneurship. I don't want to work until I'm 70 or 80. That personally terrifies me. I want to be able to go and experience life for what it is. And then choices doesn't even necessarily just come into buying fancy stuff or being materialistic with it. The choices on where I can actually go with my life, and I think entrepreneurship gives me that as well. So as I was saying, I want to go to the States. Without entrepreneurship, I wouldn't really have any other avenue to go and do that, and it's a choice that I want to be able to go and do. And then maybe I want to go to Australia after, or maybe going somewhere in Europe. I want to be able to make that choice to go and do that. And then obviously experiences. Life's all about experiences. And being able to experience stuff with other people, have personal experiences, and just have those moments that you'll always remember. And that's a major thing for me. And then family being the most important.
You jumped into a tank.
Yeah, you're on like a scuba helmet, and there's a guy down with you. That was really cool. Yeah, I'll show you the video after.
With sharks.
Yeah, there's sharks swimming about. There's fishes, and they're obviously fed and everything. So they,
you're not a snack.
Yeah, they must be well kept in there. But it's cool. It's right in the middle of the shopping center. Yeah, I'll show you the video.
Okay.
I was a bit scared to go and do it, but fear does not going to get you anywhere. I definitely had butterflies in my stomach, but I just was like, well, we'll go for it, and it was an unbelievable experience.
And you didn't get eaten, so
no,
it's a win.
It's definitely a win, yeah.
All right, so last question, which I think I'm gonna make a bit of I'm gonna start to make this into a bit of a tradition here, is about failure. All right, so my question for you is, what is your biggest failure so far in life, and what did you learn from it?
Cool. So I'll relate it to the industry. I feel like for me, my biggest failure was when I went on my first run for directorship. So I was really excited. I started to get good at sales at this point. I was able to get people into the business. But my biggest failure was I was doing it for myself. I wanted to go and hit the criteria. I wanted to go and achieve it for myself. I wasn't really thinking about doing it for them to go and be successful. And that came down to a lot of kind of fishing sometimes for them and just giving them it to eat, and not really setting them up to go and be successful in their own careers. I'm more doing it for me. And the biggest thing I learned from that was, if you do it for other people and you set people up for success round about you, your goals are going to come naturally anyway. So I didn't need to rush it at the time. I could have waited a couple of weeks, a couple of months. It wouldn't have made any difference. I would still be in the same spot I am now. But I was just learning that if you want to go and do something, you have to get everyone round about you involved and be able to get something from it as well. It can't all be about you. Otherwise, by the end of it, what ended up happening was I got all these people to a certain level. We went and hit the goal. A couple of weeks after that, they all started to fall back down because I wasn't fishing for them anymore. And then they all ended up leaving, and I was back to where I was before. With one person, maybe.
Jesus.
Yeah, so I went from being at the peak of, well, obviously my career at the time, to then being right back down to where I was. And then it took me not very long to build it back up because I knew I had the skill to go and do it. But it was that full mindset change of, I can't do this for myself. I have to be selfless. But in turn, that goes and gets you your goals as well. So now a big thing that I learned from that is set your people up for it to go and be successful. Give them the tools to go and be successful. And your goals are going to come along the way as well. And then now that ties into my biggest thing of what I want to go and do with this business. And it's be able to give someone the opportunity that I got. So for me, if I can go and change someone's lives, take a 21-year-old who didn't really know what he was wanting to go and do, had no real goals of what he wanted to go and achieve, and felt pretty lost on what he wanted to go and do. If I could take someone who was in my shoes and put them to where I am just about to go and be now, a year and maybe 2-3 months later, running their own company, maybe taking home £2,000-3,000 a week, getting themselves into a spot where they have those time, freedom, and choices to go whatever they want to do, achieving their own goals and purposes, and that's just my big goal now, to go and be able to do that for someone else.
Beautiful.
Thank you, man.
I love that. Thank you, because I definitely have gotten way more than 5% out of this with you. But I wanted to thank you again for taking time to speak to me. Aside from that, I'm Christian Dye, and this has been the Extra 5%.